Tonight, Hand Up. A Fort St. John woman helps the homeless. Nominations to proceed. A judge rules in the Blueberry River First Nation case. And ER closure. The MLA for the South Peace offers some hope. Good evening and thank you very much for joining us. We begin tonight with the city of Fort St. John still without an official warming center this winter season. But one woman now stepping in with what she calls the Warm Welcome Initiative, offering a warm place for those in need.
Come and share your story, come and sit with us, and please feel welcome and be witnessed. You know, like that's what I'm here for. It's a place to sit down and feel like a human being.
Kristen Gould says Warm Welcome takes place twice a week on Thursdays and Sundays from 6 to 8 p.m. Volunteers distributing warming items such as hot chocolate and tea. The initiative is funded through micro-grants by the Community Action Initiative. Gould says while there is a lot of stigma in the Fort St. John community, Warm Welcome was built by maintaining respect for one another. And she says she once lived in her car and she knows what it's like to not have a warm place to call home. Gould explains this is a great way for her to give back to her community and make a difference. And in the future, she hopes to be out there every day, but needs more funding in order to do so. Gould adds she's grateful for the kindness and the compassion of those who have already donated their time and or money. Today is Giving Tuesday, one of the most important donation drives of the year. And with that in mind, the North Peace Community Foundation unveiling the recipients of its first Strong Roots Community Endowment Grants. Among those receiving money, the Child Development Center Society of Fort St. John and District, the Charlie Lake Conservation Society, and Fort St. John's Senior Care Foundation. Giving Tuesday is the day to support charities, community groups, or causes that matter to you. Even small donations can make a big impact for local families and programs in need. Giving Tuesday has been an annual event since 2012. And with the holidays fast approaching, the Rotary Club of Dawson Creek is hosting a community Christmas dinner Sunday. Rotary Club member Alex Reshney says turkey dinner is on the menu, and he adds the dinner is Rotary's way of giving back to the community. Tickets can be purchased at the Dawson Creek Co-op. Free tickets are also available at the Nolwican Friendship Center for those who are in need. Reshney says close to 450 people are expected this year, and there's less than 100 tickets left. All money collected goes to Step Up and Ride, who offers free rides to the dinner as well. Doors open at 4, and the turkey will be served at 5. Blueberry River First Nations responding to a judicial review filed by former Chief Judy Desjardins with the goal of delaying the election. The First Nation says in a statement today, a judge ruled in today's hearing that the application was an abusive process and dismissed it. Following the ruling, the First Nation says the election nomination meeting will be held as planned, that taking place on December the 3rd. The elections are set to take place in January. Desjardins says the judge in this case says her ability to run in the election will be decided during her judicial review that's taking place on December 4th and 5th. The MLA for Peace River South offering some long-term hope to the Tumbler Ridge community regarding the closure of their emergency room. Larry Neufeld says he's sensing a change in the attitude with the Ministry of Health in Victoria. He says he's had numerous conversations with Minister Josie Osborne. And Neufeld adds he believes the ministry is reconsidering and looking at opportunities to bring back after-hours ER coverage to the town. However, Neufeld insists nothing will change in the short term. He says before anything is done, more doctors need to be hired. Tumbler Ridge has lost 2 of the 3.5 full-time equivalent doctors in the past 30 days. Neufeld says he will continue to advocate to bring back what he says is an essential service to the residents of Tumbler Ridge. 150 British Columbians died in October from toxic drugs. That, according to the BC Coroner Service. An average of 4.8 people died every day during the month, and it appears more people aged 18 and younger are dying from toxic drugs. In October, 21 youth deaths were reported in BC, compared to 17 reported by October 2024. And most Canadians have free access to easy-to-use drug overdose antidote, but that's not the case here in BC. The provincial government has been dragging its heels on a decision about nasal naloxone. Frontline healthcare workers point out It's the easiest way to save lives during the toxic drug crisis. And as Penny Daflos reports, it appears the health minister is feeling some heat.
Naloxone kits have become a familiar sight across British Columbia, but the free injectable overdose antidote requires training and isn't always easy to use in an emergency.
Maybe it's your loved one and you're shaking. To make it easier for someone just to use the nasal naloxone, we should be making this a priority.
There's almost no training costs, and any layperson can use it.
BC began a pilot project a year ago, but government hasn't taken next steps. Now frontline healthcare providers are urging the province to follow Ontario and Quebec and make nasal Narcan free.
What's the holdup? We don't see things this often that are just win-win-wins. There's always issues with delivery or training. This seems to be one of those things where other provinces have really invested in this because they've seen the benefit.
Anything that increases the likelihood of somebody carrying a naloxone kit, of being prepared to use it, of having the confidence to use it when an actual emergency arises. I don't think there's anybody on any end of the political spectrum who would be opposed.
After the accidental death of a student, UVic installed inhalable kits in student residences. With 1 in 5 toxic drug deaths among construction workers, the industry is asking for the same at BC work sites, joining other longtime advocates.
That's what is available in Ontario and Quebec, so I think BC should be looking at those provinces.
In Ontario, transit stations and even some libraries hand them out freely.
We don't ask to see any ID, we don't ask for a library card.
And researchers at the University of Waterloo concluded
the nasal spray, even though it is a little bit more expensive, it still is cost effective.
I'll have more to say about that soon. We want to make sure that it gets into the hands of the people who need it most.
When pressed as to why it's taking so long to decide, the health minister said
is a really important harm reduction tool, again, that saves people's lives, and I'll have more to say about it soon.
Injectable kits expire after 2 years, while the inhalable form is good for 4. Penny Daflos, CTV News, Vancouver.
A joint strike force involving more than 100 police agencies in Canada has resulted in record seizures of fentanyl right across the country. Between May and October of this year, the joint strike force focused on taking illegal fentanyl off the streets. Police seized nearly 6,000 kilograms of cocaine and more than 1,700 kilos of meth. The drugs seized are part of the National Fentanyl Sprint 2.0. The initiative netted over $13 million in cash and led to over 8,000 arrests and charges.
Certainly there's some big players here and there's some smaller departments, but it's a real shining example of the feds, the provinces, and municipal agencies all working together and doing what they can to try and make a dent.
Police say a small percentage of the fentanyl seizures were traveling south to the United States. A BC woman is facing assault charges accused of breaking into a neonatal intensive care unit in Surrey and holding babies.
Nurses aren't safe, doctors aren't safe, patients aren't safe, and now even newborn babies aren't safe.
The incident happened in October and allegedly involved 3 newborns, that raising concerns about access to specialized units inside the hospital. Police say the suspect removed her shirt and held the infants. Though none were injured, she's now facing 3 assault charges. Homeowners in Alberta who shoot intruders breaking into their homes could be spared from legal prosecution. That's because the Alberta government is challenging federal gun laws. The province is introducing a motion that includes protecting families and taking part in a gun buyback program. Alberta's Justice Minister has issued guidance to Crown prosecutors saying that prosecuting those offenses will not be in the public interest. Danielle Smith's government also directing provincial authorities to not enforce Ottawa's gun buyback program. The province argues the program is unconstitutional and that Alberta has jurisdiction over property and civil rights. The government says the buyback program only punishes law-abiding gun owners and does nothing to stop violent criminals. Will Alberta remain in Canada or seek independence? That question dominated the United Conservative Party annual meeting. And as Kevin Green explains, Premier Smith is struggling to convince her own party that staying in Canada is the right move.
A standing ovation for Premier Smith Monday from energy contractors happy with the recent memorandum of agreement with Ottawa, a far cry from the reception it got from members of her own party at the weekend AGM.
I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
In fact, the biggest cheers at the convention went to Alberta separatists, which the party president says now make up the majority of UCP members.
I would say that probably more than half of our membership actively support the idea of an independent Alberta.
The Premier doesn't buy that. Is your party now a separatist party?
No.
Danielle Smith says there's a place in her mind for Alberta inside Confederation, but admits it's not an easy sell to some in her party.
I've always said my job is to tell people that Canada works and show them that it works, and to get more people to understand that we can have our own sovereign areas of jurisdiction within a united Canada. So I got a little more work to do.
Political scientist Dwayne Bratt says Smith is trying to play both sides, but that can't last.
She keeps using the phrase sovereign Alberta and a united Canada because that seems to appeal to both sides. But at a certain point, she's going to have to pick a side.
That could come sooner than she wanted. Monday, Elections Alberta said the Forever Canadian petition is certified. Its founder wants it to force a vote in the legislature. The Justice Minister says Cabinet will meet to plan next steps, but Thomas Lukaszuk expects Smith will push it to a referendum to appease her independent swing.
Now she has to save her political hide and give them a referendum, but she can only blame it on herself.
Smith is being squeezed on both sides of the separation question. The leader of the Alberta Republican Party says if Smith doesn't stand up in the legislature and say she supports the majority of her party wanting to separate, she should say she's quitting.
I think if you're the leader of a party and you don't identify with the clear majority of what your membership is aligned with, then maybe you're leading the wrong parade.
The Premier's press secretary says that Smith will introduce legislation sometime this week to clarify just what she means by a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. That could come as early as Tuesday. Kevin Green, CTV News, Calgary.
First Nations chiefs gathered in Ottawa today, and they were united with the message that Indigenous people must be consulted about development on their land. CTV's Abigail Beeman reports.
This resolution has been accepted and approved by consensus.
The Assembly of First Nations unanimously passed a motion to keep the oil tanker ban off the BC West Coast and called to scrap the MOU with Alberta that sets the stage for a new pipeline.
We will use every measure possible to fight and oppose an oil pipeline.
Merle Alexander is representing 2 BC coastal First Nations at the Assembly and says a proposed pipeline is a threat to many people's not just livelihood, but very essence.
First Nations in Canada are feeling overwhelmed, that they're feeling as though the duty to consult is being undermined.
Canada can create all the MOUs, project offices, advisory groups that they want, but chiefs are united. When it comes to approving large national projects on First Nations lands, there will not be getting around rights holders.
It's bad enough First Nations don't trust the government, and this makes it even worse.
BC's regional chief came to Ottawa with the message that First Nations need to be consulted about development on their territory.
Not about us, without us, and that is a rounding message, I think, not only with the resolution, but with all our concerns in regards to Bill C-5.
And it's a message not just coming from BC.
We've had enough of being excluded, and there's going to be trillions of dollars going to be extracted over the next 10 to 100 years, and for First Nations to get chump change, it's not going to happen.
The Special Chiefs Assembly continues here until Thursday. Also on the agenda, a plenary session about the Major Projects Office and Indigenous Advisory Committee. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
All right, please do stay tuned. Noah will be right back after the break with a look at weather.